listening to the RM Podcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian. He's trying to get the comments up. He's going to be reading them. He's going to be texting. He's going to be trying to let y'all know what's going down. And our other host, he's here.
I like cheese.
He's always here for everybody's entertainment.
Cheddar.
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 It's all about
Keith
that.
Cheatham.
All about that cheddar.
Cheddar is better.
Cheddar is better. It's that money. Gotta have that cheddar. Actually, is a pretty good song. I wanted to use it as our intro music one week, but
I don't even know what you're talking
or our
about.
countdown music, but it's called cheddar or cheddar. But it's about that money.
Don't
Getting
show
all
me.
that
Don't
cheddar.
look at me because my color is off.
Uh-oh. I actually
I
like
just
to
fixed it.
change it on air.
I just fixed it.
Lets people know all of the technical
your
things that
color's
go on
off.
behind the scenes while we're trying to entertain everybody. We actually got some breaking news. Breaking news for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I don't think y'all have heard about this.
I bet I have.
You don't know.
I bet I do.
You don't know.
I bet I do.
Don't act like you're in the know.
You have a
always
third
know.
testicle.
I have had a third testicle for a while. I now have four.
Oh,
It mutated.
split?
Yes. And now I have two full testicles.
Did you name it Delta?
And two half testicles. And it is the Delta variant.
Yeah.
that's
That
what it does.
is what it does.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I'm okay with that.
And here's the thing, that's what they don't tell you. The reason they want you to get vaccinated is because if you get the Delta variant when you're vaccinated,
You grow
get
another
a fourth
testicle?
nut.
That's right, and you're
And you
more
can have
reproductive.
More, yes. And therefore you can populate the earth more.
and they're trying to.
I just thought it's
depopulate.
because it made you
Chinese.
that much
Yeah.
more masculine, and we all know that that's a sin now to be a
those-
white male.
Yeah,
Well,
So
those with low T are gonna rule the world someday.
That's true. That is true. But not only that, you could also argue the fact that maybe this would be the case for some of those trans women to get the shot. You know, because then maybe they'll grow two nuts. And maybe they'll have the testicles that they need to prove that they are indeed a
this
man.
is
all
not-
very interesting.
Yeah, this is not how I thought we would start the show out this week.
This was not the breaking news at
No.
all.
we
that
have.
had.
I mean, we have started the show with masturbation.
I mean, we
So
had black
this
dildos.
is-
I would
so,
say
mean,
we've ended the show with black dildos.
Oh my gosh, I
that
forgot
was
about
before
that
video.
episode.
So
about
I mean,
that one.
December 2017.
It's been a while, since
That's where our minds are at right now.
yeah.
You never know what the hell you're gonna get out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like a box of chocolates. Yeah.
Well-
You never know what you're gonna get.
What
no,
is what is the breaking?
Our
news?
breaking news is for the first time in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of headlines to get through, so we are actually postponing our Vices segment
Yeah.
to next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are not having a unique weekly segment.
That's
this
why we
week.
talked about vaginas and dildos, because we
That's
kind of
right.
had our vices segment just now.
We because no.
Those are vices.
Yeah.
Those are
For some
vices, but
people.
those are also that was very important news that needed to get out. And so there was valuable airtime that needed to be spent on those very, very things. So that was not a waste of time. I don't know.
I didn't say it was a
Who-
waste of time. I said it was our vices.
Yeah.
It's not even a vice.
But
It's
who-
a vice.
Who decides
Dildos
whether
are a
that's
vice.
valuable airtime or not?
Well, our,
that up to you?
our
Brandon.
viewers
Brandon
and
decides.
and ultimately, yeah, the dictator over
Yeah.
here. That's
I
you know,
mean, the penis potato.
the penis potato.
The
Yeah.
dictator
penis potato.
with 4 balls.
I mean, think about it. It's like at the end of the day, the world's going authoritarian. It's the movement of the age. Let's just keep it going. And Sean's already laughing.
I'll tell y'all after the show. It's an after the show conversation.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's a during the review conversation.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I guess because we have so many
We
chock,
can't.
like
well,
so many headlines.
We
chock full.
actually we do have a great review. We actually me
Yeah.
and Brandon saw 2 movies this weekend.
What?
Yeah, we went and saw a double feature.
If you
It's
saw
been
on
a
our
while.
Instagram, we asked people to guess which movie was the good movie because we saw The Green Knight, and Jungle Cruise.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to say which one was the good movie. You could just listen to the review first, so that can answer it.
Only
we could
one was good.
But we can explain why very briefly. I don't want to get into it, but we can explain why the other one was not good.
And also, I do want to shout out to Sean. Thank you, and we have it officially on air that I owe you some summer shandies because this is a flat.
Brandon
beer.
Brandon ruined them.
Yeah, obviously, I knew not to leave them in the freezer.
I didn't think you had them in there that long.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Well,
Last week it was just like, hey, put those in there for a few minutes before the show, and then you made coffee.
No. So y'all didn't hear me earlier. I left them in there overnight.
Oh,
So it was the next morning that I woke up.
Yeah,
and
it's too long.
When
Okay.
I put them in the fridge,
They
they had
are-
already the caps
exploded.
had already busted, and
So they're flat and they're sticky,
I've got nasty
but we're still drinking them.
beer that I
'cause
got to
we're
clean out of the
cretins.
fridge.
Yeah.
That's worth it. You know, free
It
beer.
kind of tastes like lemon flavored spit water, but you know.
I'll enjoy it. I've enjoyed it, but I do owe you.
It's
I
okay.
want it on the record that I owe you some summer shandies.
Just bring
for
them to the
show.
lake.
That's fine.
You know. Well, there you go.
I've got 10 more at home, I think.
Okay. All right.
No, not 10 more.
Well, next time you bring them, I'll put them in the fridge. I won't put them in the fridge.
It now tastes like Bud Light made this beer.
does
I had to think about it.
yeah.
It's like, actually, it doesn't taste that far off from a Bud Light with lemon in it.
That is actually very, very true. The lightest beer you could have. Anheuser-Busch Summer Shandy.
Now we know what they do. They just put it in the freezer. Like, here's Bud Light.
That's what it is. He's got it.
He can't even make it fizz.
He's trying.
No.
He's trying to get ahead on
I
it.
was trying to see if there's any
Well-
clumps or anything in there.
I mean, I didn't taint it with anything. I didn't put any of my.
Well, I didn't know if air got
Four
in
nut
there.
juice.
Well,
Just with it.
speaking of taint,
4 nut.
this has nothing
Wouldn't
to
that be a good name of a good beer? 4-Nut.
Four nut.
Yeah.
You got what is it?
Four nut and taint.
All right,
It's like,
guys.
I think I'm going to have that fat tire.
And
It's
that
like,
4
no,
nut?
give me that 4 nut and taint. I want to try that.
It aged real
Is
well.
that brewed with an orange peel?
Let's get
Yeah.
into our review.
Here is our review of Jungle Cruise.
Disney conquers the box office once again, having turned another one of their attractions from the most magical place on Earth into a paint-by-numbers blockbuster. Because if it worked for Pirates of the Caribbean, it can work for other theme park rides too. I mean, just look at how successful Haunted Mansion, Country Bears, and Tomorrowland all were. That's right, even though Disney has only managed to successfully adapt the Pirates ride into a full-blown franchise, and all other attempts have paled in comparison, they continue the trend with their latest film, Jungle Cruise. And while I still stand by my paint-by-numbers statement, I can actually say this time, Disney didn't completely botch the idea. Yes, Jungle Cruise is raking in the cash, and with star powers such as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt, it's no surprise. What is surprising, based on Disney's previous track record though, is that despite a few flaws, the film honestly is a lot of fun. One expects, of course, anything The Rock is involved in to be highly entertaining. No matter if the film he's in is good or bad, The Rock knows how to work an audience. The man just knows how to entertain. Alongside Emily Blunt, who has long proven herself capable of a wide range of roles, we get two engaging leads that you enjoy watching the whole way through. While Emily Blunt and The Rock's performances are definitely the highlights of the film, and their chemistry on screen and ability to play off one another are the driving force behind the movie, it is still painfully obvious how much Jungle Cruise borrows from other films. Anyone who has seen Pirates of the Caribbean will feel the story and villains are eerily familiar. Jungle Cruise's plot structure greatly resembles Pirates, with themes, set designs, villain designs, and the entire general atmosphere of the film feeling heavily influenced by Pirates blended with a bit of National Treasure, Indiana Jones, and the African Queen. Though the original theme park ride was inspired by the African Queen, so I guess things have just come full circle. While the plot may follow familiar story beats, and much of it is familiar Disney tropes in a new jacket, it is still a very nice new jacket. The film doesn't lack in complete originality. The characters are, for the most part, aside from a few woke additions that add nothing to the plot, generally fleshed out and well likable. The humor is very well done, and even backstories and character development keep the movie compelling. Yes, we hit familiar beats, but the characters are so fun and relatable that you want to stick around for their story, even if it feels like the movie takes place a few centuries after Captain Jack sailed the seas. Hey, maybe if Disney plays its cards right, they can create a cinematic theme park universe. At this point, why not? My only other gripe with the film is that it also has less than stellar CGI when compared to past Disney works such as the Pirates films or even recent Disney live-action remakes such as Jungle Book and The Lion King. The fact that the same studio that brought to life Davy Jones and live-action versions of Baloo and Simba also created the villains and the Jaguar in this film is mind-boggling. It's not that the CGI is always bad in the movie, but there's no excuse for when it is bad after we've seen Disney do better. The Jungle Cruise, however, is still a fun film for most ages. It may be a bit much for younger audiences, but no more so than Pirates was. There's brilliant innuendo and darker moments for adults, with lighthearted laughs and characters for younger ages. The film has its flaws, but it is still a fun adventure film, which is all it needed to be. I give Jungle Cruise 3 out of 4 stars.
3 out of 4 stars.
Yeah,
Nice.
Jungle Cruise.
Nice.
So I guess now everybody knows what the bad movie was that we watched.
Which is surprising because critics on Rotten Tomatoes have given The Green Knight 93%, but it also
What?
has a 53% from audiences. So go figure.
That's
right?
freaking
Wow.
insane.
It is probably the most pretentious art house movie I've seen in a long time. That added. I've read the actual.
really
poem.
is.
Wow.
It was really stupid. I've read the actual poem, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which is an Arthurian tale.
yeah.
J.R.R. Tolkien did a translation of it, that's the copy I own, is the translation he did because it was in like Gaelic or Old English, and I mean,
Yeah.
So I read the poem and watched the movie, and I was like, I have no idea what they did here because obviously it's a shorter poem, so they had to embellish a lot to make a movie, which I knew they would, but everything added in there, and it was just, it was dumb. I was like, why?
I'm
And
really surprised because I honestly, when you started off with that, I was like, oh, they're gonna bash Jungle Cruise,
yeah.
and they loved this other movie, and
yeah.
I'm gonna
Well,
be
and I'm
pissed
glad.
that I didn't go see it. And now
No,
I'm like
no.
kind of glad that I didn't. Go see it.
Don't see it.
It's a waste of
unless you
time.
want to see giant naked women howl at the moon
And not good looking women.
and not good looking.
He
with
got
the
his-
fox.
He got his hopes
with the
up.
fox.
Red hair?
No, they're bald.
Oh no, I'm
They're
out.
they're all
I'm
they're
out.
giants.
The only other thing you could have said if they were midgets, but you started with giants.
No,
so
they-
they
we're
can't
talking-
be midgets.
They
We're
were
talking-
giants. They were bald. They were naked, and they just stare at this dude. Then this fox starts howling, and they all start howling with the fox. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on because
Oh,
that's
I
not in the
busted
That's
film.
like my
gut.
neighbor. My neighbor howls with the coyotes. So I've heard.
Wait,
Yeah.
the neighbor.
Crazy
well,
neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen
They're
so
not
many.
listening.
I've seen so many reviews.
They don't have the internet.
talk about how artistic and this is the most beautiful movie of the year, and it's so
Really?
brilliant. And I'm like,
Oh, you know it's going to be bad if
Yeah.
you heard that.
yeah, well, that was after I didn't see anything.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
read
Well,
reviews till after I watched
would say
the
it's
movie.
always the huge critical and viewer discrepancy, like the
Mhm.
difference between them. That
Yeah.
you know when there's that big a
Yeah,
difference.
see, I
okay,
didn't
it's
know
bad.
anything. Like I don't watch or look at the score until after I've seen the
Yep.
movie, just because I want to form my own opinion.
Sure.
But then when I go back and look at the reviews, and I'm like, what the hell were these critics thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, usually when there's
Yeah.
that big a difference, I'm always on the side of the viewer.
They don't even
Wow.
make it clear that he's like.
They literally, the Giants reminded me of Sinead O'Connor. There was like Sinead O'Connor. I'm
Really?
serious. Oh yeah,
It's
and,
bad.
And I honestly would have loved if they just turned to the camera and
They make
started singing Enya.
King Arthur. This
What if
way
they were
like-
like the lady from Cranberries and they were like,
Yeah.
zombie,
or like
zombie.
That would have been better. That would have been better if they had started instead of howling. If they had started singing zombie, I would have been
would've
like,
made it
okay,
better.
this is a good movie.
like a modern twist on a drama.
Yes.
They made King Arthur this wimpy old man. I mean, it was just his.
Well, and then they add in this weird connection between I seriously, there were 3 huge scenarios in the film that were just completely made up to somehow
To lengthen
lengthen
to lengthen his journey
into a full movie.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that really kind of made him a poor excuse for the journey he goes on for one, and the type of knight that he is or becomes. And it was like, no, I don't really feel like he was on this heroic journey. Just this crap
He's no
happened that was
Lancelot.
bizarre.
The whole
Yeah.
themes is that like it's supposed to be about like honesty and him becoming like this honorable knight, and it's like that didn't happen in the movie.
And then there's like some weird mysticism that's thrown in there, which
well, no, that
apparently
makes sense
is
'cause
it's
Mor-
enchanted.
well,
and-
look, okay, Morgan Le Fay, Arthur's sister, who is a witch in the stories, like is you find out at the end of the poem was behind everything, but then they try to blend like that's not his mom, but they kind of make it his mom in this movie because Arthur has more than one sister, but I guess they can't do that in the movie. They have to just make it that's his sister, that's his mom. I don't know. It was just really bad the way that rather than explain anything.
It's how I
just
felt when I watched art house movies
Yeah.
way back in the beginning of the 2000s. And every once in a while, you'd land a good one where you're like, oh, that was actually pretty insightful and cool. And then you have some weird, obscure ones where you're like, no, don't pass this off. This is not art. This is junk. It's crap.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. But now
It was-
people are
it
trying
was
to go
bad.
back to it and say, man, it's been so long since we've seen something like this. Is great. It's not. Green Knight, pass it up. It's,
Okay.
it's
Yep.
worthless.
Yep.
It's not.
Why don't we
worth
get
it.
So what
into
about
the good
the
one?
the
Yeah.
3-star movie? Let's
Yeah,
talk
what about that
one.
Jungle Cruise, Sean? You start out because
I-
you thought we were going to trash it.
I really did, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I gave it a lower score, thinking that it was going to be on par with yours. I'm not going to change my score, but I'm a solid 2.5. I can understand why you went 3.
I was on the fence. I
The-
almost gave it 2.5.
I think like one of the reasons that I kind of verged towards the center there was just because it was something that I felt like, obviously with all of the other adventure movies that Disney has pumped out,
Pirates.
like Pirates and National Treasure, I felt
Yes.
like it was just a copy of that, but it did have a bit of flair that those movies didn't have. The Rock is still The Rock. He can never play anyone other than The Rock. It's fine.
that's okay,
but
'cause he's entertaining.
He's entertaining. It works in this film. His freaking dad joke thing was
Yes!
killing me.
Yes, it
and,
was.
and there were just so many instances where it was used properly and timely, and they didn't run it into the ground like they do with a lot of other comedic shticks in films. They always like go way too far with it. It's like, okay, you should have just stopped at the third joke.
Well, they kind of did, but that was the point.
Yes, and then the kid's like, "Can we make him stop?"
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I loved it, but even later on in the film,
When they kinda
when
come
brought it
back.
back.
yeah,
But it's not constant. It's like
no,
it's just
it was very well timed.
Yes.
But I really thought their interactions together, him and
Emily Blunt.
Emily
Yo, their
Blunt
chemistry,
were
yeah.
great. Yeah, I thought seeing her even do. I know that she has a stunt double, but a lot of the scenes you can very easily tell that she's doing some of the running and jumping and things like that, which is, I mean, other than Edge of Tomorrow, there's not really any kind of an action movie that she's been in. And in A Quiet Place, it's mostly
Yeah, she's not really.
no. Yeah. So I mean, I really enjoyed seeing her kind of break out and have
Yeah.
a little bit of an action film. But no, I really when it started off, I thought I don't kind of know where this is going. But then later on, as the film progresses, and you do find out that he's,
Don't want to spoil it.
I don't
yet,
want
but
to spoil
yeah.
it, but you find
It's a
out
little similar to Pirates, but
stories about the conquistadors and
Yes.
stuff like that. I thought, wow, that's really awesome. But now, how are they going to do this? Because obviously they got to fall in love. And it's like, well, how are they going to work that out? And they did it so well.
Yeah, it was
that
seamless.
it wasn't far fetched. It wasn't what's it called when they just like they throw something in there just to make it work.
Just a
a
MacGuffin.
Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
a-
there were real,
or a
something
MacGuffin?
along those lines.
Well,
It's just
MacGuffin
like,
is,
no, yeah,
is
it
that's
didn't
what you're
feel.
going
Yeah.
after.
The end didn't
Yeah.
feel so coincidental. Like it felt natural. It felt like a good story. And I mean, my kid loved it. It didn't have any bad language like a lot of the Disney movies that are coming out right now. So me and Sawyer
It
sat
was-
up late and watched
I was
it.
gonna say it's rated
And
PG-13, but it's
I
a
know.
very mild.
No, it was
PG,
very
yeah.
mild. I think they said hell once or twice in the
Yeah.
movie, and that was literally it. I thought Paul Giamatti was definitely going to be the character that said something that I had to explain to my son, and it never happened. I love it. In fact, it was freaking hilarious. We were sitting there watching this movie, and Paul Giamatti's got that one gold tooth in the front.
Yes.
Well, Sawyer has a crown that's silver, like he had a bad
Yeah.
cavity, and it's just like a temporary thing because it's a baby tooth. But he looks at this character and he goes, "Oh my God, Dad, he's got a gold tooth." And I was like, yeah. And he goes, "That must have been a really bad cavity." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because my cavity was pretty bad, and they put silver on mine, so gold must have been worse."
I'm telling you,
That was
man.
really funny.
That's when you
Had
use
me
the
laughing.
kids.
The logic of
Yeah, the
children
kid logic is
great.
great.
Oh, I love
But
it.
no, we enjoyed the movie together, and I would watch it over and over again,
Yeah.
which I probably will have to. Because
Yeah,
Sawyer's all
especially if
into
they
it
like
now.
it. Yeah.
I
But
would
no, it was a very good movie.
definitely watch it again. The Rock, I had even stated like part of the draw for him doing this movie is he loved pirates and wanted to have his own like adventure
Yes.
franchise
Yeah.
with Disney like that.
Yeah.
So he joined this, and yes, I felt a lot of similarities between this and Pirates.
There's Indiana
and
Jones moments in it too.
I told
that's what I said.
I told Brandon that. I said the Indiana Jones. I got a lot of vibes of Pirates, National Treasure. Obviously,
That's the music
Queen of
reminded me
Africa,
of
but
Indiana
That's
Jones.
the music. It struck a chord with me, and of course, it's James Newton Howard who did it. But I feel like what they did is they tried to go back. They hearkened back to like, I really do think more of a, Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Well, I
or
mean, it was
like
very-
more of
a
an
lot of people are
adventure type
comparing
of
it to the
vibe.
Mummy. A
Yes,
lot of people are
yes.
comparing it to that.
It's like
And-
the
and
Mummy.
it
I was
did.
gonna say the African Queen. It has a lot of those
Yeah.
vibes with Humphrey Bogart, but then again, the ride originally was based off of the African Queen, so it's kind of fitting. It's like people are like, well, it reminds me of that. It's like, well, I mean, it kind of came full circle. I mean, that's where the ride took inspiration from, and for the movie to have kind of bits of that makes sense to me too.
But I think I was delighted from the outset because I could tell they were kind of going for that vibe of just more lighthearted hijinks, ensue, and all of a sudden like they're getting out of these sticky situations one right after the other. And I actually liked that they did. They played into it. They played into the corny jokes of like what you would expect a tour guide to say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, okay, he owns it. He pays off some people to act for him,
Yeah.
and
The
and then
backside of water.
how that
Yes.
exactly
So good.
I mean, it was just these little
He said,
moments.
take pictures. Take pictures.
And that's like it was those moments that ultimately made me feel like, okay, this is just a fun flick. And for all of its shortfalls, really fell into the category, which is why I gave it 3 out of 4 as well, or just because it was a copycat, it was a cliche, and there wasn't anything wrong with that. It was just I mean,
seen
the
it
whole
before,
entire
but-
plot line
Yeah.
of the curse being lifted. I'm sitting here thinking that's straight up Pirates. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and granted, I will say what I liked about the differentiation between Pirates, though, was that this was more on the comedic, lighthearted side. Even though they had the darker moments, it doesn't go as dark as
The
Pirates.
humor in this movie is what I loved most. I laughed a lot. It was very entertaining. Like you said, it was a lot of the story we'd seen before, but outside of the story, I mean, it was still well done. Like Sean said, it never felt like there was any major plot holes or gaps or just things in logic that I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. I told you there was a scene when the one German brings the vial of water, and he's like, this is what you need. And I was like, well, why does that resurrect him? But then later on, it explained it. And I was like,
Explains
oh,
it.
I
They
thought it
can't
was just
be
going
away
to be
from the river.
I just
yeah.
thought it was going to be like you said, this Deus Ex Machina thing, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they just threw that in there to move the plot along, but then they actually explained why, and I was like, oh, that was actually thought out.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that.
Yep.
For me, like I said, my only problems mainly was like, the copycat stuff, and some of the CGI could have definitely
CGI
been better.
was yeah.
It
Yeah.
was, especially the Jaguar. The
Yeah.
Jaguar in the bar fight.
When
I
you've
thought,
seen the Lion King
yes,
Yeah.
remake
Jungle Book.
or Jungle Book,
is,
Yep.
is, I mean,
or even I told you like the Conquistador
I
with the
thought the
snakes.
I thought the
Yes.
snakes looked terrible.
They were
Yes.
terrible, and I was like,
Awful.
you made Davy Jones, and now we
Oh
have
my
these.
God,
It's like
yeah.
Davy Jones looks amazing.
And that was 10 years ago.
Yes.
well, and actually, to be fair, I don't know if Weta did Davy Jones. I think that was ILM. I think ILM did that.
Are you giving
I'm
ILM
just-
more props
I-
than
yeah,
Weta, who
Weta?
made Gollum? Oh,
for,
man.
for Pirates, I am.
Yeah.
But I also think it was ILM that did Polar Express, and that was absolutely not Polar Express.
Golden Compass.
Golden Compass.
Oh, yeah.
Which is god
Terrible.
awful.
Yeah.
ILM definitely
The
has some
CGI in the
bad
new
CGI.
HBO series, though, based off of those books,
His
is
Dark
much better.
Materials.
Yeah,
it's
much
very
better.
good.
But CGI was definitely waning in this film. It was not on par with what I would expect out of a high budget Disney film.
But ultimately,
But
these are
ultimately,
more nitpickier
they are.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie has for 2 hours and 7 minutes a very good pace. I honestly thought it wrapped up a little too quickly, but it didn't need any more.
Yeah.
I wasn't upset by it. It was one of those moments where I was like, they kind of do set it up for, well, what are they going to get into next?
Yeah.
And so they kind of lead you off to thinking, if it is a financial success, I definitely think there will
Well,
be a number 2.
They're already talking about number 2.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And-
I have a feeling there will be.
And as long as you've got Emily Blunt and The Rock who get
It ranked,
along,
I think,
which,
like
hey,
The Rock
93.
never takes his shirt off in this movie.
no,
That's true.
It's very
but
weird.
I will say I felt uncomfortable anytime they had chemistry because I just kept thinking of Jim
John Krasinski.
Yeah.
and John from Jim from The Office.
That's
John
just because you
Krasinski.
actually know
So-
her husband. Other
I
actors
know.
have significant
Well,
others.
I don't know.
you know.
I would beg to differ. I think if anybody pays any attention, everybody knows it just because they're like one of those Hollywood power couples that are quietly in the shadows. And I would just sit here and I'm thinking, I could just see John thinking like, I'm jacked up, like I'm Jack Ryan,
Yeah.
jacked
Yeah, he's
up.
got muscles.
He
Yeah.
looks good, and then he stands next to The Rock, and he's like, well, hell,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what the hell am I going to
Yeah,
compete
it's
with
like
this
it's
guy?
like one of those office memes of him just sitting there like,
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like the difference between a pebble and a boulder. It's it's like Kevin Hart standing next to Shaq. Have you seen that photo?
Oh,
I love
God.
it.
Yes. But I just think it's funny because I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I don't think Jim's gonna like this. I don't think he
Yeah.
likes this. And so I was like, man, I don't know if I like that they like each other in this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, that's
You
Jim's
feel bad.
girl.
You feel bad for John Krasinski.
Yeah,
I know it.
I know, and I know that because like
Wonder if he took
freaking-
her on a jungle cruise.
Well, she had a little jungle fever, you know.
Oh.
Whoa. Well,
Yikes.
he was a
I do
conquistador.
have to say, I mean, yeah, it's like I've never seen a Samoan conquistador, but when they gave him the long hair, I'm just like-
Samoan conquistador.
but when
I
they
love
gave him
that.
the long hair and the beard, I mean, the bald look he didn't look Spanish at all.
No.
But with the long hair and the beard, it's like, I can kind of see he's kind of bigger than I've seen any Spanish person ever be. But
Yeah, he ate 3 Spaniards.
I
got
ate him
that
for
big.
breakfast.
That's what he
man.
was fed when he was a kid.
I will say, I thought at least their versions of him being younger were actually decent.
Yeah.
Compared to a recent movie we watched. What was it?
F9,
F9 with Young Dom.
young
Those
Dom. I
were
was like, they don't even
awful.
look like the
Young
like.
Dom and Cena.
Yeah, Cena's was okay.
Cena was okay,
Yeah.
but the guy that played young Vin Diesel, I was like, nothing.
No,
No, it was terrible.
It's like maybe his mannerisms and like his voice, but I was like, he looks nothing like him. I just don't buy it. But no, definitely 3 out of 4 stars. Go see it if you have a chance. There's a few, just forewarning for those family members out there who maybe want to protect their children. There's a few
Yeah.
woke moments.
few.
Yeah.
In the film, and actually, Sean, I thought what you said to Sawyer was pretty
Yeah,
good
really.
when one of those came up.
Right, yeah. So it's basically like it's an LGBTQ
Moment, yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got all of the alphabet in there or not, but
Yeah.
Elemental P.
yeah.
QRX.
It's one of those moments, and it was. And I will say, if you got to have it in there, it was kind of pointless. But they did minimize. I felt like they minimized.
Oh, don't say that because that's wrong.
I know it is.
They shouldn't
It's wrong
minimize-
for them, but
You
it's
sh-
right
yeah.
for me.
Well, this is where
They
you're gonna
kept
get
it to a minimum.
people on both sides arguing
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
and
Oh,
hitting
yeah.
Disney.
Yeah, it wasn't enough for them, but it was
Too much for us.
It was too
Yeah.
much for us. I mean, it wasn't necessary.
It was definitely
for the
playing,
story.
It was definitely Disney
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
the
yeah.
middle ground
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
both sides have been. I have
Yeah.
seen the other side angry that they didn't. That there's like, oh, well, of course they just made it a brief scene and it's
Right,
not anything
yeah.
bigger. And it's like,
Well, and
did
the-
it have to
the
be?
only
Did
thing-
it really
Yeah.
affect his character?
The
that
only
much?
thing I can think, and I'm spoiling a little bit, but you can tell the moment it shows up. I'm just sitting here thinking the only thing they can happily say is, well, he wasn't prissy. He actually does have strength, and he
Yeah,
comes through.
he
this-
knocked a few people
and
out.
I'm
with
just
his-
sitting there, it's like,
yeah,
okay,
he's very
so
prissy through the entire
He's
film.
very high.
yes,
I'd say high maintenance. He
Yeah.
reminded me of Niles from Frasier in a good way because that humor I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
oh, that's
Yeah.
funny. But then like,
when you threw in his character arc, it was just like, okay, this came out.
but
of
then
left
it became
field.
mysterious
It
because
seems shoehorned.
it came to a little bit
That's all
more
it was.
stereotypical. It was like, oh, it was funny,
They
but
could
then
have
now
thought
that he
of
Yes.
a lot of better reasons
Yeah.
for him to never leave his sister's side or
Yeah.
never forsake her.
Yeah.
because she supported him through this when no one else
would.
or whatever. But I did like The Rock in his reaction to that information when it's given to him because he's just sitting there drinking. He's just kind of like,
okay.
here's to elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
And that was
I really
fine.
liked the
I
way
would-
he
you know,
handled it.
I
He
wish-
didn't go overboard, and he didn't make a big deal out
Right.
of it. It was just like, well, to
Actually-
each his own.
I actually wish
Whatever.
that was the attitude everybody. If we would
Yes.
just shut up about everything and just be like, okay, that's your
Well,
choice.
and I think that's kind of what they're aiming for, though. But the only thing that I have a qualm with, and this is why I say it's a woke moment, is again these subtleties are shoehorned into a child's film
Yeah.
that then you do have to explain to your
Yeah.
child when it comes up.
PG-13.
PG-13,
I know.
Yeah.
yes, but still PG-13 for you don't see anything about in relation to this. It's because of violence or small image, scary images or
Yeah.
whatnot. It has nothing to do with this. They don't consider these
No.
moments to be why it's rated that way. But any parent who truly would even acknowledge or want to refer to a rating of a movie would be wanting to know these things.
Yeah.
But our culture, of course, is trying to change that, drastically, and how we,
They
understand. They manipulate.
Didn't really show any blood in the movie,
No.
other than maybe a cut on a forehead. But they have that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, so you're trying to shield my children from gore and blood when people are getting
I'm
stabbed
actually
and cut.
not 100% sure why this was PG-13 as opposed to PG.
It didn't have the language. It didn't have the
It
violence.
didn't really have a lot of violence or gore.
Yeah.
It might be.
I'm
It
I'm
might be.
I'm
It
gonna
might
Google
be
it.
because
I'm
enough people were just like,
Adult
you had
content.
enough parents who were
Yeah.
just like, no, I don't want that.
yeah.
And I can see Disney is very good about trying to appease both sides.
I'm gonna Google
They will
its- I'm
push
gonna
a
Google
certain
its rating.
narrative that is popular in the public eye when it suits them in a very small minority that they know is going to pay attention.
right.
But when it comes to the overarching image of Disney, they're going to be very strong to maintain
parents-
a very particular image.
Parents need to rise up, fight back, rise up.
And with saying that, I think we need to move on to our headlines.
Sure, let's
Because
do
we
it.
got a lot
Do
to
it.
cover. We got
Do
we
it.
got so much to cover. So yeah, let's roll that big beautiful open. Are you ready for the
It
headlines?
says PG-13 for sequences of adventure violence.
That was it.
Yeah.
Well, of course they're going to disguise it anyway.
And homosexuality.
All right, here is our headlines. Let's get into it.
She don't like the
The
whispering
dog
either.
thinks you're talking to her.
She's probably like,
Are you done?
she's confused now. She had a little bit of
Okay.
trauma.
We didn't yell it this time.
I know. I appreciate it.
We did that for you, Sean.
I prepped.
We did
I
that
was
for
ready.
you. We know you.
We got a lot of headlines.
You hate our scatting.
It's gotten very long.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's not going anywhere.
I figured it's like, once y'all find something that works,
Brandon
just
loves
go with
it.
Yeah,
All right.
it's become a mainstay. All right, here's our first our first headline.
Yeah, let's get
for
into
this
those.
evening because we got 5 headlines.
I mean, we're
Which one we
forgoing our
starting with?
unique
Are they in
segment.
order here?
they are going to go in order.
All right.
Netflix is mandating vaccines. Look,
Well,
I'm
who
gonna
the
just-
hell isn't?
Hold on, we got to
Excuse
give
me.
a
That's how I
warning
feel
for
about it too,
anybody
Sean.
who is scared of politics, who doesn't want to be politicized on an entertainment show. We hate to go here because
We go there every
very
week, Brandon.
entertaining. But we try to make it entertaining. We try to make it entertaining.
Here's the thing.
But they just Hollywood's got to keep pissing us off.
It ain't just Hollywood.
I mean, all of society, pretty much now, if you don't
All
have
gone
a,
crazy.
you're not allowed to live anymore unless you have a damn vaccination card. That's
We're
just
there.
simple. We're going to take people out and shoot 'em.
Can't have a
Yeah.
freaking ID to vote, but you got to be vaccinated. Prove it.
That's right. You can't have you don't need an ID to vote, but you have to have this vaccination card to come eat in our pleasant restaurant.
Wait till you got to have a vaccination card to vote.
Here, I'm panning down.
Oh.
That's going to be it right there. I guarantee you.
We're going out. We're hard hitting right now.
I didn't quite think about it, but you're right. I would not be surprised if they said, we're not letting you in to vote unless you have a vaccination card.
That ain't gonna happen. I mean, you.
Hey,
if
that
you
would
wanna
get
talk
rid of-
about
I'm not saying it's
legitimate
going to
blood in
happen.
the
That would get rid of a
streets,
lot of the Republicans.
That's I wouldn't be
that would
surprised
get
if they
rid
tried
of a
it.
lot
Just
of
not these two.
America.
Yeah,
we're going to fight. Take it to the
Oh, no, no.
streets.
it's only like
Bloodbath
30%. Just 30%.
It's really not.
70% have been vaccinated, haven't they?
60.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's a pandemic of
It's,
the unvaccinated.
56%
what I keep
is the
hearing.
last number I saw.
Oh, really? I thought it was over 60.
I thought it was too, but then I saw, which I could
They're
be.
lowering it just to make it worse.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I thought it was over 60, but then a few days ago I read
no,
56%.
it has to be because they hit their goal. No. It was like 60.
Their goal was to
or
be 70 by July.
70% have had the first shot was their goal. They reached it just this past week on Monday, just yesterday.
But they were supposed to
they were
hit.
supposed to hit it a month
Yeah,
ago.
so in 2 weeks we'll all be okay.
Yeah.
right.
When everybody gets that
We
second shot.
already are. Because
know.
everything that they want to say are nothing but new cases. They don't even talk about deaths anymore. Nobody mentions the death rate, and this is why
To tie this back into movies.
you have to be warned that this is what Netflix is doing, along with a lot of Hollywood studios
and not just
other
them.
private
All
businesses.
major, I mean,
major
Disney's
corporations.
enforcing it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, Walmart is. All of New York now, you can't go anywhere unless you have a vaccine card. And I get the idea of
Vaccine guard? Or
guard, yeah.
card?
Well, it's because it guards you,
It's like you're
but
selling
it doesn't.
insurance.
We don't know. We don't
Get the
know.
vaccine
It's
guard.
like one moment you need
Bingo.
one moment you need the
Dino
vaccine.
DNA.
But I'm just saying,
Now
one
you got
moment
it.
you need the vaccine so you can go out, but the next moment the vaccine doesn't matter because you'll get it anyways. But then they don't know what is it? Is it you need the vaccine or you don't need the vaccine?
Well, that's the thing.
I mean,
The-
it really is exhausting.
It is.
It'll just give you a headache thinking
the
about
back
it.
and it does. It gives me a headache because then they change how many days you have to quarantine for this many days. No, it actually should be this many. It's like they don't know, and I wish they would just say we don't freaking.
Well, it's not even that they don't know. It's can we say dance monkey dance and they do it?
Yeah.
And those who do dance are in the club. Those who don't, you're bad and we need to shut you up. And Netflix, now granted, their mandate goes to what they call, I think it's called A or tier A people, which is considered actors
now
or
we're
anybody
classifying people's
well,
worth.
they have it
Zone
in terms
A.
Zone A. Zone A.
Zone A.
But they have it to where it's actors and anybody who associates with actors. So basically, any on-set production people have to be vaccinated. And the fact of the matter is look, I know there's a lot of below-the-line people that work on these huge movies, especially the ones that Netflix produces, that I guarantee you it's going to cost them their livelihood.
Yeah.
Now, what I think is so funny is that the
it won't.
unions
if they would just get
themselves-
vaccinated, that's their decision
right,
not to get vaccinated.
Right. Yeah. That's what they want you. That's
Yeah.
what they want to tell you. And
It's like,
browbeat
it doesn't
you.
have to cost you your livelihood. You're just making the wrong decision.
But what I think is so interesting is that you have the unions who put this pressure on the studios and said, we're going to leave the ball in your court, and it's up to your producers of whatever production they're producing. And yet, at the end of the day, we all know, I mean, it's like, 95% of Hollywood considers themselves to be left-leaning. We know that.
Is it even that low?
I know. It's like 98. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I'm sitting here thinking they know what they're going to end up pushing. And Netflix has been ahead of this because they're always wanting to be on the front lines in the publicity of say, oh, look at us and look how great and how they want a virtue signal.
Yeah.
That's what they're about. But you're going to have so many people that these unions do not represent because they feel that this authoritarian measure is correct.
Yeah.
It is the right thing to
They feel it's the
institute.
morally right thing to do, but it's like, at what point do you take people's freedoms away? I mean, I understand the idea of you think you're doing it for the safety of the public, but at what point do you allow that to cross people's constitutional rights for their own good? I mean, I know this is, drastic. I mean, a lot of people think what they're doing is for the greater good, but that doesn't make it so.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's
and
what the Nazis thought too.
Yeah.
Hitler thought he was doing the greater good for Germany.
Well, and again, I know every time somebody brings up
I
a
know.
Nazi
I know.
comparison,
I know.
you immediately get
Disney
like,
fires
oh,
you.
great.
History repeating itself. Is what
Every
it is.
time a Nazi comparison's brought up, Disney fires someone.
Yeah, that's right. That's the truth. But I
Yeah.
just find it interesting that Netflix went down this path. No, I don't. I don't find it interesting. This is exactly
That's not
what I
surprising.
expected.
Yeah.
Hollywood is going to continue to do this, and there you have now everybody's wanting to hold up this banner saying, "See, we're doing it. You can do it too." And they have no interest in actually preserving the real hardworking men and women that support the industry, and they don't care about their livelihoods if they actually have the right to say, "No, I choose not to get vaccinated for whatever health reason." And I don't care if I've gotten the vaccine. I've gotten the 2 shots in my arms. I'm
I
not
have
an
too.
anti-vaxxer, but I am pro-liberty, pro-choice. And when it comes to that matter, and yes, when I s-
Pro-choice?
yeah, pro-choice when it comes to making
know
my
what you
decisions about my body,
Yeah.
my choice. But guess what?
That
Now
don't
when
work.
it's a human,
Yeah, that
in
don't
my
work
body.
with the vaccine.
yeah, it don't work when you're talking about a vaccine. So yeah, it's about time we start using their words against them, wanting to protest this matter. It's like, yeah, how come it's not my body, my choice at this point? Oh, because I may affect somebody else? Well, I guess you don't give a crap about that when they're in the womb.
Yep.
You don't care about that
those
person
aren't
that it's
people.
affecting. Yeah, let's get into the semantic game. Let's do it. Because that's really that's all it is. It is a form of control. That is what they want. They want to say, look, we're on the right side of history, and we're going to mandate that you do this because we know better than you.
Are they on the right
Screw
side
you,
of history?
Netflix.
Or
I'm
are they
canceling
on
my
the
subscription.
left side?
I'm done. I'm
Speaking
done
of,
with Netflix.
right and wrong.
I am going to force my parents to cancel. I'm going to mandate they cancel Netflix.
It's like you can't even say you're going to quit Netflix because you're not paying for it.
And that's one of the liberties I have.
Yeah.
Well,
Screw you, Netflix. You don't get
speaking-
my money.
Speaking about things not being paid,
Yeah.
second headline.
Oh, da, 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 da.
One of the, I think,
Nice segue.
bigger ones, I think, for most casual viewers, obviously, is that I think everybody now knows Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney because of a breach in contract, or what her and her lawyer claim is a breach in contract. Disney's never refuted it, but they've talked around it, which is what I think is funny. Basically, Scarlett Johansson is saying that per her contract, prior to Black Widow's release, it stated that it would be a theatrical release only, and of course her pay is based on a percentage of that gross. Because Disney released it in theaters and Disney, it's possible that the being on streaming reduced the theatrical cut, which reduced her pay. So she's taking them to court. Disney's saying they never said that they didn't put that in the contract. All they've said is, well, she's being greedy because one, she was paid $20 million, which is kind of shady to out how much someone's paid anyways,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. When
and-
does that happen in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Like you don't really know anything. Like we've done Tinseltown trivia for the longest
never talk
time,
about- yeah.
and trying to find how much money somebody made on something is
it's
near
It's
impossible.
it's only
Yeah.
ever leaked, or it comes out years after
Yes,
the movie
yes.
was ever
Or they'll
announced.
talk about what percentage of actors
Yeah.
being paid, but
Right.
they don't say how much that equates to. But yeah, they're like,
And we
well,
know
she
it's millions.
She's like, she's paid $20 million, and she's being insensitive because this was done because of COVID. It's like, well, it doesn't matter why you released it to Disney Plus. What matters is her contract stipulated one thing,
Yeah.
and you went against
Yeah,
that.
and you didn't
Yeah.
change it.
Yeah.
You know, you had time
And that
to
was the
say,
thing.
look, we need to renegotiate our contract because of
apparently-
this pandemic.
Yeah, apparently her
agent.
thank you. I knew I couldn't think of the word. Tried to renegotiate the contract. They actually, when they found out it was going to be released to streaming, which tells me apparently she understood why it was being released to streaming because of COVID. So they tried to renegotiate, and Disney was just like, "Nah, we ain't doing that."
Nope. And
Apparently, when you're Disney, contracts don't matter.
well, and they don't care because they can fight it. I mean, they simply
They'll settle.
and
They'll
that's-
settle, and it'll just be a drop in the bucket to them.
Well, and to them, they have the feeling that they know if they can either paint them in a bad light or that they can somehow, change the scope of the story and the perspective, that they're going to get people on their side and fighting for them, or that it'll change the public narrative to where it won't be so bad on them, and they do have to go behind closed doors and do this in
they've already
private.
tried by saying, well, she made $20 million, and it tries to make her seem insensitive and greedy.
Yep.
And it has worked. I've seen people online be like, well, why does she need more than $20 million? It's like, well, if you go to an employer and they say we're going to pay you $20 an hour,
Hey.
and they only pay you $10 an hour, are you just gonna be like, well,
why
that's
does LeBron
okay?
make twice that playing basketball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you make. That's what she's promised to get. And if you make a contract saying you're getting X amount of money and you don't deliver,
Well, I think
you should be held
it's
accountable.
Also, it's that hubris of, because they are the big corporations and they do have all the means that they.
Well, how much money did Disney make off of her? Who's being more greedy, her or Disney?
Well, they came out the very freaking week after the opening weekend and exclaimed how amazing their performance was in the box office and on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So you actually have proof of Disney talking about how great they did on Disney Plus and how pleased they were, and I'm like, that straight up is evidence right there of just how well you did, and I'm sure that boasting is what probably brought the little attention to Scarlett Johansson saying, I'm not going to let you get away with this. And I think also this has to do with the fact that this was a problem that was brought to many of the big heads of all the studios back in December when Warner Brothers announced they were going to release their entire 2021 theatrical releases on HBO Max. And so the problem with it is that from the very get-go at the start of this year, you knew some of these streaming deals were going to happen because they were like she's even saying that COVID somehow was the excuse when it wasn't. We had theater traffic. F9 actually made, it says in the very same article, it is the only one that has remained a theatrical release, and it has made twice as much as Black Widow, and they're estimating that Black Widow at the end of its entire run will have made about $300 million. And it's a Marvel film.
Yeah.
Each Marvel film up to this point has at least cleared $1 billion.
Yeah.
So $300 million versus $1 billion, and F9 stayed theatrical, and it's made twice as much. It's close to $500 or $600 million.
I feel if Black
That
Widow was only
argument-
theatrical, it would have made more than
Yeah.
Oh,
F9.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt. And it would have forced people to go back to the theater. But Disney's doing the same thing that they're arguing that Scarlett Johansson is. They're saying, oh, she's using the pandemic as this excuse as to why she deserves more money.
Disney said
and
from
it's
the
like, you all are
get-go.
doing the exact same thing, but as to why it's on Disney Plus.
Well, think about it. They said from the get-go that their goal was always to start releasing things in theaters and Disney Plus. It's just COVID expedited the process.
Yeah.
So they already admitted long before this that's been a goal of theirs for a while. Which,
yeah.
So it's like, that tells me maybe that's why that was even in her contract. Maybe she knew, well, they're doing Disney Plus stuff. I don't want to be in a movie that's for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we Disney is being disingenuous in the sense that, which surprise, surprise, because they're the corporation. They're being disingenuous in that they obviously were going to come up against the fact that they could have renegotiated, or they will continue to negotiate differences in contracts with regards to movies that do release on streaming. The problem is that this was in that kind of interim period of the crossover, or for a movie that was never intended to be on streaming, and now all of a sudden it was. And I'm like, okay, Disney, you're the one with the big pocketbook, and you're the one that can afford this. Freaking pay your actors and do your people right so that they do come back and they continue to make you more money. But of course, no, they're going to maximize profits for themselves, and they're going to showcase in their own right, not just to run a business, but how can we profit off this more?
Yeah.
And ultimately, to those who really where the money goes to, which it also mentions in the article, the two main executives, which Bob Iger is one of them,
Yep.
and the new Chapek,
Bob Chapek.
who
the
is-
Bobs.
The Bobs,
Gosh.
man, they're on it. But you're talking about the chairman and the CEO getting a majority of this cash
Yeah.
because their vested interest was in the percentages of how well Disney Plus did.
Yeah.
And so you can't sit here and tell me that these two people who were going to profit the most off of it didn't have a little negotiation of no. She's fine with $20 million.
Yep.
This will probably be her last Marvel flick. We'll go ahead and get
Yeah.
that and shoo her out the door. And on the back of this, you now have Emma Stone.
Yeah, she hasn't
considering
decided, but
suing?
she is considering.
For
Cruella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they were trying, I think, to start up something with Emily
They,
Blunt.
there's been a few people saying, "Oh, we think Emily Blunt's good," but there's been no
Notice
actual.
it's all women,
Yeah.
underpaid.
Well, they asked.
Well, that's the reason why
no,
they're playing up the
Gerard
angle, I
Butler
think.
is actually suing some company for his recent film too, so it's not all
Good.
women.
Who is?
Gerard Butler for whatever movie he just
Probably
came out
Greenland too. Greenland too.
It's not even in production.
with. Maybe it is Greenland,
I
the
don't know.
original.
That's
but
the
apparently,
most
yeah,
recent
apparently
film he's
Gerard
done.
Butler.
is Greenland.
It wouldn't surprise me if he got off the plane and said that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me.
And
at
then he was just like got back
Still a
on and
good
was like,
movie.
I just
Still a
made
good
$100
Oh no,
mil.
it's for Olympus Has Falling.
as falling.
Has fallen.
Oh, I thought you said falling.
Wait, how old is that movie? That's
Olympus
old.
Has Fallen is old. That was the first one.
Yeah. Is he? I mean, is he trying to go back and get some
It's-
back
I think it's
pay?
Olympus Has Fallen again. That's it. That's the
It says they understated their own receipts and profits by over 11 million. So apparently
Yeah.
they cheated him out of some type of money. It may not be
I
with the
believe that
streaming,
that was
but
long.
yeah.
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Well, he's suing them still because
because
apparently
there's been London
yeah,
Has Fallen. And then there's another
2013.
one.
Yeah, he's suing them for the movie that came out in 2013. I guess it just took him this long to realize he got
Well,
cheated.
no. Actually, there's I forget the. Dang on, I need to remember.
He's in
the,
so many movies that it was like
He probably didn't realize it. He was
No.
like doing
Well,
his
no,
stuff.
this
It's
is-
like,
yeah.
wait a minute.
This
He
is
was
a
doing his
common.
checkbook
This is
and
a
like-
common practice, and I actually there was it's a great YouTube channel that is like all things film industry. I need to find it. I want to rep them because I recently subscribed.
They failed to report approximately 8 million in payments to producers because he's a producer too. So yeah, they tried to
wow.
they
Film Courage.
they understated how much they made to try to pocket.
Courage.
Yeah.
The YouTube channel is Film Courage, and they actually just have all these people who are part of the industry from higher ups
Yeah.
to indie stars. And there was an accountant on there who actually deals in distribution and delivery as far as like, and he said he's like, people think delivery process is simple. He's like, no, you have to get with the distributor and you have to get all their specs, but you also like some of these people like Netflix, in order to be on there, you have to have it like translated into like 26 languages, and like it's like a big ordeal.
Yeah.
And he said that alone can eat up a huge cost of what you have budgeted for a film just
And
to
they,
get
they
it for ready
fudged
for
the
release.
numbers on purpose to pocket more money.
Well,
themselves.
no.
Well, that's what they're claiming. These people, did.
Right, but
Wow.
part of the fudging of the numbers comes from after it's released, they only report in certain territories, and then they try to basically say, well, you have to trust us on how these other territories will be released, and we'll give you what we monitor in those territories. And this guy was like, it's a common practice for them to just be like, yeah, it released in that territory, but it just didn't do real well. And he was like, I know for a fact, based on other films that I have released on this same caliber in those territories, and not only that, I have people there that tell me that it aired at this time and this many people were watching. I actually have that evidence that there should be way more than this as far as my revenue. And they go back, and he says it's this huge back and forth process. They try to give you the runaround, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, sorry, that was an error on our part, and it was an accounting error. So we'll go ahead and we'll fund you that. And then he says you'd be surprised how many of these instances are through huge distributors like your Warner Brothers, Universal,
And-
and so basically, if you're not a huge blockbuster release where you're going to make buku bucks anyway, and you probably don't care about the little money markets here and
Yeah.
there that don't really do well. When you're a freaking indie film and you're looking at
You
a
don't
film,
realize how much you're probably being cheated.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And these are the people we have made our moral arbiters on whether we should be vaccinated or not. So
That's right.
the
But
people
they can't
that
even keep
the,
track.
the
They
people
can't
that
keep balance on
openly
the checkbook.
the
Yeah.
people that openly cheat other people out of money because they know well nobody's ever
Yeah.
going to know how much money we made in this
No,
market
that's
anyway.
exactly it.
It's
It's-
like show me the proof of in the numbers of how many people have died. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
It's
What
like, no, that guy
numbers?
was shot in the head.
What
He didn't die of COVID.
It was in his bloodstream.
That's true.
And we
the
can
bullet
correct.
had COVID.
Yep, that's it. But no, it's interesting with this whole. I'm actually on. And it's funny because even ScarJo, I don't align. A lot
No,
with
I don't
her
mean
views
with her
on certain
views.
things.
I don't agree
But
with
as far
her.
as this matter on a case by case issue, I think she's in the right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
more power to her for coming and claiming what she's rightfully earned, which is exactly what her contract stipulated. And Disney, you have the money, pay your stars, pay your people right.
you're talking about these companies holding on to more of their money.
Here we
Well,
go.
when you
I
get,
love it.
Yeah,
He's
I
killing
saw
it
him.
tonight.
I knew it. He
He's
was like-
keeping that train
I
rolling.
saw him scroll up on the iPad. I was like, he's getting ready to do another
He's gonna
There
segment.
we
drop
go.
it.
I
He's
mean,
gonna drop it.
You know how you hold on to some more of your money is when you get tax credits, right?
What?
Well, how do
Yeah.
you get tax credits in Hollywood? You hire more diverse people.
Or no. Really, what you just do is get your governor, who's
get-
about
yeah,
to be on his
do
way
some-
out,
Yeah.
to just give you a bunch of money.
Recall.
And he just says,
Hey,
"Hey, film
hey.
industry, vote for me."
If you're going out, you're going to go out swinging, right?
And this is the way he swings, by giving his rich buddies a lot
It's
of
like
money.
I will give all of the rich people in Hollywood tax credits as long as they do what I want them to do.
So
Right.
the funny thing about this is it is tied to, again, this is how the authoritarian rule begins. It's not only just tax credits to a specific industry, which honestly I'm like, well, for one, again, you get what you vote for. And California is absolutely, they're getting what they voted
Yeah,
for.
they don't have bacon now because they voted for that.
Keith, you were actually telling me that story
I
yesterday.
couldn't.
This is insane.
It's so asinine. They voted for a bill that was marketed as like some like animal like rights type bill. Don't you want animals to
3
have
years
better,
ago, right?
It's like 2018 is when it was voted on
Uh-huh.
for animals to have welfare. It was an Animal Welfare Act. Okay, that's how it was marketed, which sounds
God,
nice.
Even the animals are on welfare
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
You need
I'm just kidding.
you want the animals to have it stipulates that these animals have to have a certain amount of room like to move around. Like they can't just be pinned up and can't move and can't
Sure.
because that's cruel.
Sure.
So all the pigs that are going to be slaughtered for bacon, we got to make sure they can move around before they die. So
Okay.
only 4% of farms are compliant with this.
Yep.
So if you're not compliant, you can't sell your bacon in California. So they said there's going to be a bacon short, like pork costs in California. They said we're going to rise 60%.
You already can't drink
Yeah.
or water your plants in California.
It's gonna
Now
go
you
up-
can't fry your bacon.
They said pork products will go up 60% cost in California because there's only going to be 4% of farms that can actually sell their pork in California.
There's
It's like, why do you no wonder
there's-
people are leaving California in droves. You can't have bacon.
Dell has a gaming PC that's upsetting gamers that they can't buy in California because it doesn't meet a certain strict climate change consumer rating standard for electricity use. Like they are
like
now,
alien gear.
Yeah, it is an Alienware
So
computer.
rather than-
Alienware, yeah, sorry.
So rather than comply, Dell's just like, fine, we're not going to sell that in California.
granted,
which
it's-
good on them.
It's
Good,
only
yeah.
but it's only one unit that they're not shipping just because
Sure.
it doesn't meet these standards that
Yeah.
have to go into place in like December of this year.
Yeah.
And granted, they're all saying, well, they've had 4 years. We gave them these stipulations. But
The farms had 4 years to comply. Why don't more for them? Because
well,
it's
again,
not,
it all goes back to they don't know what they're voting for.
Yeah.
They vote for this crap thinking in good conscience.
I won't vote
they-
for animal welfare.
Yeah.
4 years
I don't-
later, oh shit, I can't have bacon now.
Don't be cruel. Yeah. And that's what I think is fun. It's like, well, I guess I'll be vegan.
Yeah, right.
It's like, okay, so be it. I mean, you're doing this yourself.
Yeah.
The only problem I have is
This has nothing to do with tax credits for diverse
No, it's just
casting.
it is a
though.
good story though. I like it.
It's pretty good because
I like
it's
it.
like,
Yeah,
I mean,
it
there's
just shows how
nothing-
asinine all of these stipulations are. You basically are forcing people to not be able to live. You can't live unless you follow every dumbass rule
Well,
that
I
the
love-
government.
It's a
love-
shame homeless people don't eat bacon, because then we could just get rid of all the homeless people.
True.
They just all starve to death.
I do love how for 4 years we were literally on this rant about how much of a tyrant Trump was, and I'm like, no.
He was the only thing holding this freaking country together.
He was the only person who actually, he had some mean tweets and he made your feelings hurt. But ultimately, at the end of the day,
grabbed the vagina every now and then. It's like
I can still eat bacon.
that's
damn
right.
it.
well,
It's like, what's more
hey,
important, bacon or your vagina?
we'll see what happens because, well,
I know. I'm going with pork. T-shirt now.
I know.
I just want a T-shirt.
Pork or vagina.
No, it just says
I'm going with pork.
It says I'm going with pork, and then it just shows a woman with her legs out.
I don't know. That kind of
that's
sounds
pretty
like
bad.
a pro. Like,
that's
it's
pretty
like,
bad.
I don't want taco. I want sausage. This is the only time I'll ever say it.
I was gonna say no,
Oh my
that'd be like a
God.
pro LGBT.
Yeah.
shirt.
So
They
bad.
would love that. This is what you get. See, we can make the headlines fun and entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm done talking about this headline. It's stupid. Go
It
read
is.
it.
Let's-
It's
yeah.
Now, what's
ridiculous.
next?
Oh, the argument between Ben Stiller and I don't even
this
know
is- this is a
what's
good
what's
one.
the other guy's name?
Lord, I don't know.
Franklin
Lord.
Franklin Leonard.
Leonard.
Blacklist founder Franklin Leonard. Yes, I knew it was Franklin. I just didn't know the last name. Yeah,
I
apparently.
thought that was Lenny Kravitz. I didn't know who that was.
Have you read up on it? Keith?
Yeah, I read.
So
Nepotism.
basically-
Like I was trying to think of the word. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's Hollywood. He was arguing that unless like you're the child of someone in Hollywood or know someone in Hollywood, like you can't make it in Hollywood.
Well, it all started with a tweet that he made about he made a snide little comment because a new movie, it's a short film that's coming out it's directed by Steven Spielberg's daughter and is written by Owen King and
Stephen King's son.
Stephen
yeah.
King's son. I forget the other person who's writing
It's
it.
okay. No, Destry Spielberg, which is Steven Spielberg's daughter.
Yeah.
And
Sean Penn's son.
Sean Penn's
Hooper's
son.
son or Hooper's pen.
Yeah. And then basically he was saying, he posted a tweet saying Hollywood's a meritocracy, right? And then he has all of these children of famous people who are working on this project.
Mocking the fact that it doesn't take talent, it just takes
Yeah, you have to know
knowing
somebody.
or being the child of a famous person.
Which there's a little bit of truth in as far as getting a break, but then Ben Stiller came back. It's like, yes, it might be easier for you to catch a break if your parent is in Hollywood, but if you have no talent, you're not going to stick around.
That's right.
And I agree with that. And they fought back and forth because the guy was basically saying, well, then how come we don't have this? Or how come, he's like, it's all about who you know. You only got a break because your father's Jerry Stiller.
Right.
And Ben Stiller's like, that's right. I because my dad was Jerry Stiller, I got a shot.
Well, he didn't necessarily. I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth.
Yeah.
He made an overarching and again, Ben Stiller called him out on generalizing, but
Yeah.
he said no. Basically, what you have is a bunch of people who don't accept what privilege they've been given by having other people in the business. And Ben Stiller fought back and said, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I lay claim to the fact that I'm a product of my parents who helped me get
Yeah.
through. But again, he said, when it comes down to it, he said, that may be the thing that gives you your break. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the talent to back it up, and he even said, everybody has their own struggle. Everybody has their own. And then, of course, this is what I love. And I don't want to get into this narrative because it pisses me off. But then, is it Franklin is correct? That's the guy.
Franklin Leonard.
Franklin Leonard then throws out this whole racism card. He says, well, then explain to me the lack of diversity. Is that just because they didn't have talent? And it's like, whoa.
Now you're
Shots fired.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're going to exclaim that the reason why the Hollywood industry is whitewashed or Oscars so white or because we don't have many diverse roles is because, they just don't have talent. That's not what he's saying.
No.
Last time I checked, there are many people and he even says this. Franklin does succeed this point. He says, "Oh, well, yeah, we've done a good job of getting diversity changed in front of the camera, but if you still look at all the boardrooms, you have all those people at the top that are it's still one color. There's not much diversity there." And Ben Stiller kind of concedes and it's like, "Yeah, I agree. That's the argument that I want to stick with. I'm with you on that one." And I'm like, "No, I'm not, because at the end of the day, you're basically making the point that we now need to have bias in a different direction."
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I think the point that Ben Stiller's making, that he conceded, idiotically to, was that, no, bias of any kind is wrong.
Is wrong, yes.
At the end of the day, regardless of what opportunity you are given by whatever privilege you have, because you can't sit here. I'll tell you, every single freaking person in this country has privilege. The privilege is you grew up in the United States of America.
That's right.
And anybody
or you
who
were
wants
fortunate
to
enough
lay
to
claim,
migrate here legally.
yes. And so if you want to lay claim to this idea that you don't have any kind of privilege because you somehow had to have learned about your ancestors' past and that you don't have it near as bad as they did or have overcome even the same atrocities that they did, don't sit here and give me that line of BS. Because you cannot, at the end of the day, sit here and tell me you deserve a certain position because of the color of your skin or some other diverse statistic. And now all of a sudden, somehow the movies that are going to be populated are going to be the ones that we should all really be seeing because it has that perspective. No. If somebody wants to watch your film, if somebody thinks you have a good idea, then guess what?
You have plenty of independent avenues. You have plenty of ways to make your claim in this country.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be through Hollywood. You are sticking with this very minute focus on one industry that you are somehow obsessed with being a part of and being accepted in. Why not? And this is going to go into our last
I was going to
topic.
say, there's one thing I agree with you on, and that you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be in Hollywood.
It doesn't.
Why? Why do we need Hollywood?
Why do we need Hollywood?
Let's
Well, I
ask
mean-
the creator of The Chosen.
What else would we talk about? If there was no Hollywood, we wouldn't have a podcast.
We would talk about the other companies just as the creator of The Chosen is talking about.
That's exactly
make,
right.
okay,
let's-
segue.
Let's make movies without Hollywood.
Do we need their approval? And I think we just explained that we don't.
Wow, that guy's got hairy legs.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, does it show a
Jeez.
picture?
Yeah.
Is it Jesus?
well, it's
I don't think
I
that's
mean,
Jesus.
Show it up.
Yeah,
show it up.
it's
yeah,
supposed
it's
to
him
be-
in the picture.
Jesus doesn't have short hair.
Can
in
we show him
any
in the- hold it up.
depiction.
Well, it's
Oh, you want me to show?
yeah. These are longer hair. It's supposed to be.
no,
This
no,
is
no.
Nobody.
I'm thinking the guy in the purple is Jesus.
yeah. The guy in the purple is Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you all show the
I'm
picture
talking
up
about
to
the guy in
camera?
the brown.
they're-
He's got the hairy legs.
It's biblical times. They didn't shave their legs back then.
No,
Well,
they
I
didn't
don't
have
sh- I don't
razors.
shave mine now, but they're not that hairy.
They didn't
That's
have Venus.
manly.
Well,
okay?
it kind of looks like he has a lot of mud caked in there too. So
yeah,
and
that-
there's something going on with his knees. His knee
No,
looks really
that's
yeah.
a muscle.
You know what's sad?
That's
is
not
when
a
we
that's
walking
not a
in
muscle.
sandals
get
everywhere.
the chance to rep
That's
the
not a
Christian
muscle.
series,
It looks
Yeah.
like his knee's been busted with a baseball bat.
and we totally,
They probably were
totally
when he was
oh,
crucified.
the equivalent. The equivalent.
we totally overlooked the fact that it's like we have the chance.
I can't even read this article
To
because I
rep-
don't subscribe to Daily Wire.
Well, you should, and there's a reason why because of this.
They have a free subscription to read their articles.
I hit continue reading and it's making me
well,
subscribe.
you do have to subscribe, but they do have a free tier.
Okay, well,
All
Or I
I'm
think it's actually
saying,
$1 or $2.
This is a
It
great
may not be
article
free.
if you have a free subscription or a subscription, or hell, you can find the article
I know,
anywhere
I
that
know.
talks about the
Well, I mean,
Chosen.
The Chosen is
Daily-
a very highly rated show.
It is.
It is.
And I haven't
amongst
seen any
amongst
of it yet. But
certain. I mean, there's going to be other outlets that will tell you otherwise because
No,
they're-
actually, he references in the article that even the
It's a
Atlantic,
very- yeah,
which
it's
is a very
secular-
left leaning,
yeah.
yeah, that's true.
leaning magazine or newspaper, talked about how they said it's as on par with any other highly produced
Yeah.
show. And the great thing about this is not only a once in a month. I think this shows.
well, it's also the largest crowdfunded.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. This shows the bifurcation of how we have split in America between those that, you have these Hollywood elites. And I think it's funny that Franklin, he's got his own point of view in what he considers to be diverse. And I'm like, well, you want to talk about lack of diversity? It's like this kind of content is successful in its own right and is completely crowdfunded and a huge success. And they've already completely funded 2 seasons of this show.
Yeah.
It has gotten favorable. The premiere they even talk about of the second season that premiered on Easter Sunday received like over 700,000 viewers for the premiere, and that matches. There was a show they brought up on HBO Max when it premiered.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, I mean that in and of itself is not only a huge success. This proves that this is profitable. That this is something that
Yeah.
I think studios should be paying more attention to. And the only reason they're not is because, again, it doesn't fit the culture they want to push. And so just to go back to Franklin's point, who brought up that it's not a meritocracy, this proves it. You have the technology at your fingertips. You have the motivation to get out there and profess what it is that you're trying to fight against, this so-called diversity trap in Hollywood. Then don't go to Hollywood. Create a new Hollywood. And you want to talk about how hard it is to go up against the machine. I'm sure anybody you talked to in the 90s laughed at Jeff Bezos because they didn't think Amazon was going to become bigger than
and
Walmart.
now the guy's in space.
And in a big
space.
penis ship.
I was gonna say, we mentioned the fact
Penises,
that this
vaginas, we're talking about
Dr.
all of it.
Dr. Evil. yeah.
He's in a big
I was
boy
gonna say,
somewhere.
we mentioned the fact that even this article about The Chosen is an article from Daily Wire, but even they have begun to start producing things
Yes.
outside of Hollywood.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we
Well, distribute things mostly,
things,
but
but, well, no,
yeah,
they-
eventually
they've
that's the
distributed-
plan.
Well,
They-
Gina Carano, the
that's
new
gonna be
deal that
completely
they made
produced
was
by
produced
them.
by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's their whole point. Again, they bring it up on their show all the time about how they are alternative media, and we always want to raise our fist at the media,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what we do here every week. We manage maybe 4 to 5 members, and yeah, we get our downloads on our podcast.
dang you, media.
But at the end of the day, we're continuing to chip away. We're continuing to try to fight for what we want people to hopefully respond to us and react to us. The fact is the avenues are there. And yes, you do have big tech and you have other things that are trying to censor or stamp out these voices. And all it takes is, again, the crowd moving in that direction of saying, we're not going to let you silence us. And I think that The Chosen is exactly one of those
we will be
those
heard.
ventures. We will be heard. And in fact, I'm going to throw out a little challenge
Hell
to you
no,
all.
we won't go.
I love how we literally could bring up the one Christian show that is modern, and we're trying to rep it, and we've brought up penises.
Yeah.
And hell no, we won't go.
We won't go. I don't know.
There's
I
nothing
don't
wrong
know
with
where.
saying,
No,
hell
it's
no, we
true.
won't go. I'm not going to. I'm going to make my voice heard.
Not going to hell.
I'm not going to hell.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah. That's exactly where we're going right now.
Vaccines.
Not us.
Alrighty, guys. I think that's gonna do it. We've ran through our.
I thought there was a point you were about to bring
I
up,
was
and I think
no,
you forgot.
no. I was gonna bring up a challenge for
Yeah,
us on
yeah,
the show,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
was gonna see if you all would agree with me. But so I was gonna ask, would you all? We've done this with our multimedia segment already about reviewing certain shows. Should we review The Chosen?
Oh, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
Why
I've
don't- why don't we
I've
do
been
it?
wanting to watch it. Yeah.
We can go ahead.
So next week is Vices, because Vices we've put off for this week, but next week we're gonna do our Vices segment, and then the week after we'll start reviewing The Chosen, starting with episode 1.
Okay.
And we will let you know from Christians, from people who
Are we
have a
gonna
critical
just
eye
review one
of the
episode
media.
every 4 weeks, or are we going to do a bunch at once like we
Now,
normally do?
we're gonna leave those
The whole-
particulars.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I think the
after the
whole
podcast.
first
Yeah, we
season
can
is.
talk about that.
I don't know if they drop a whole season at once, but I do know the whole first season is at least out. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
two
no,
had-
2 is.
I don't know if
they
the
stagger
entirety.
it.
Okay,
They
okay.
stagger it.
Yeah.
They don't drop it all at once. They trickle out a few at a time, and
Yeah.
then they do like a weekly release, I believe.
Mm.
But I know they're in the middle of crowdfunding season 3.
Well,
It's probably already
I
successfully
think it
funded.
took them a couple of years just to get, because I think season 1 came out a few years before season 2. So
No,
it's
it
not like an
did,
every
but
year
after
thing.
the success of
Mm.
season 1, and it got word about, because
Mm.
they were offering it to a bunch of distributors who didn't want to distribute
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
They actually came.
What's PureFlix? I'm pretty sure you can watch it on PureFlix.
Don't get PureFlix.
I don't want to get it,
It's
but
god awful.
is
It's
it
got
free?
God's
you
Not
can
Dead
watch
on
it on
there.
NBC
Free?
Peacock. You can watch it on Peacock.
Is it on
Is it
Peacock?
free?
It's on
Okay.
Peacock.
Is it free on Peacock?
I don't know about that.
I just
I'm
have-
sure
I don't-
you
I
can
just have the free
download. You
Peacock.
can
I don't have
download the
Peacock.
app. There is a Chosen app you can download, and it's just all the episodes are on there.
Okay,
Yeah,
as long
yeah.
as it's
Because
free.
when they
Okay.
brought up the crowdsourcing, they knew that nobody had offered them to distribute it, so they literally just part of
Created
the
their own app,
crowdsourcing was
yeah.
creating the app.
that's fine. I just didn't know if you could view it for free because I can't afford to pay for it.
No,
right
no,
now.
yeah, it's
but I mean, I
completely
can get
free.
it.
Consider it your
I can get it
tithe.
for
Wow.
free either way.
This is
It
Jesus.
could be part
we're
of your
talking about.
tithe, man.
I don't have. I'm tapped out. I don't have the money to
Wow.
pay for just one show.
Joel Osteen
Well, you know-
says if you give more, you'll
Yeah.
get more.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But I'm not.
Think about that in terms
I would
of the
actually,
vaccine.
I would actually like to give my money as an actual tithe. I'd like to give my actual money as an actual tithe to the church.
yeah,
Not you know.
so you can see it actually.
It is
further the
completely
kingdom.
free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
Not just
almost
further
any
someone's
kind of
Yeah.
Christian. I
Bentley.
mean, that's the other thing that I find so interesting about this is it is successful because again they made it on the back
people
of
are donating
wanting
money,
to
yeah.
donate it, but
I
again
wanna
they're
see it
not
succeed.
other than getting the actual viewing of it in return, which yes, that is that's part of the investment, but at the same time it's like all these other huge studios are all about we're going to make these type of films, but then you got to pay to go see them, and they're looking to make a profit off of it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There is no free tier to the Daily Wire.
No, I looked. It's $4 a month.
99 cents is the cheapest.
That's
tier
the
you can
reader
get. That's
pass.
the reader pass.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
I
Keith.
said, I
Keith
said, it, I
lied
said it
about
was
that.
either free or $1 or $2. I didn't remember.
The
I did
reader
say,
pass is 99
I did
cents.
say it was $1 or $2, maybe.
The other thing I like about The Chosen is that he does bring up in the article because they did an interview with him. He talks about how the process of this was kind of diving into it's very much based on the biblical scriptures and the
Yeah.
passages. He said, but there's a lot of nuances that are not just verse by verse. When you go verse by verse, there's like, it just says, and they danced at the wedding.
Right.
And he talks about specifically, he's like, but nobody ever sees that. You don't see
Yeah.
an actual visual.
He tried to make it like,
representation.
okay, if like this is actually how it would have been back then if they
Yeah.
were dancing or if they were doing this. This
or
is,
even
you know.
amongst themselves. And I loved this when I first saw The Passion, when you see the scene between Jesus and Mary, and they're sitting at the kitchen table, and
Yeah.
he's laughing, and he splashes the water in her face, and it's like
Yes.
you get the humanity
Yeah.
of what, and that's what he said as a part of the show. He said so many people, he said, approach any biblical story and they're scared because they think if
They're
they
scared to fill in the blanks.
right. And they think that they're going to
Yeah.
be, and he said specifically,
We don't wanna come
I
off
don't
as
want to be
sacrilegious
lambasted or
or- yeah.
sacrilegious.
Yeah.
But he said, but I want he said, I love the Bible, and I want to make sure it's personalized in such a way that we do it justice so that other people can connect and say, that's what I read when I read the scriptures. And I thought it was a very,
You don't want to be accused
Again-
of making woke Jesus.
no. Yeah. And that's true. And I have a feeling that if we didn't have something like this, that's eventually what we would get.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
that's what some churches are turning into.
He would have like a rainbow shawl.
Oh, they
instead
already
of a
they
purple
already
one.
do.
What? You have a
They
problem with,
already
with,
have
with
churches
the,
that are
the
like
rainbow
that.
color
But,
with the coat of many colors?
No, now
Or
that
the
wasn't
rainbow
necessarily-
Or God's covenant?
promising.
That wasn't necessarily a rainbow coat, though. Just because it had
What's
many
wrong with
colors doesn't
But what's
mean
wrong
that
with
was-
rainbows? Are you saying
There's
God's
nothing.
promise
I'm
is
saying I would
is
like to
evil?
take back the rainbow, but I'm just saying Jesus didn't wear rainbow.
How do
so,
you know?
because I was there.
It would have been very expensive.
It would have been very, very
been very
expensive.
expensive.
yes.
But no, I
He
just
probably didn't have purple.
Even,
either,
say,
like
even
in the
having
picture.
purple on would
He
have
had
been
purple
expensive.
that was the
during
color
the
of royalty,
crucifixion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty, guys. I think that's gonna do it for this episode.
I
of
think
the
I think we
podcast.
did what we
I think
came
we
here to
did.
do.
And we
we're
actually
like
are
30
we're-
minutes short.
I
this
drank.
week.
Yeah.
I drank my whole
Did you?
Bud Light.
It wasn't
so
too bad when I got to the bottom.
I'm getting down to the foam.
I got down to the bottom and I thought it tasted better. Yeah.
What little bit is left
Yeah.
of the
I'm not
yeah.
gonna drink.
I wish I had another one,
It's
but
warm now.
only not flat.
My bad. I owe y'all some summer shandies.
That was a flat tire instead of a fat tire.
Well, don't worry, because next time I'm gonna get you 4 nut in a tank.
I like that.
You know, we can't close the show out on something as wholesome as Jesus. We got
We always gotta screw it up. That's what we
That's
humans
true.
do best. Alrighty, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Again, I want to thank everybody out there for listening and watching our show and tuning in every single week. Again, always like, share, subscribe to all of our social media platforms. They are right there at the bottom of the screen. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics, and search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube.
And what if somebody has an opinion? Maybe it differs from ours. What if they're like, you guys are idiots
That
for
would
not
be a
for,
lot of people.
for yeah.
Yeah, they
A lot of
probably
people.
heard a lot of our discussion. and
Yeah,
thought, what
and
the
if you want to
hell?
chew us out and tell us how dumb we are, why just email us, right?
What?
And
Is
it-
that at the bottom of our
well,
screen?
Is it down here?
It's
We
right
got-
there.
Whoa. RM Podcast at redmoonproductions.com.
I like that dramatic pause.
And then, yeah,
It
the
was-
long hair. And
You gotta-
it's just,
I mean, it does.
You're
You've
welcome.
started to let
You're
your hair down. It looks
welcome.
good. Look at that.
I don't know what
I
that
can't wait
is.
till we get to Lemuria.
Lemuria.
Lemuria. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host.
Sean Sebastian.
And
I'm for pork.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.